Need a new idea to write about? I have a special guest with me today who's offering a trick to help. This is the Journey to KidLit podcast, episode number 14. Welcome to the Journey to KidLit podcast. I'm your host, Brooke Van Sickle, and each week on the show, we'll discuss what it takes to write, publish, and market your kids' book. Let's get started. This episode is brought to you by the Ultimate Writing Binder, the #1 resource all children's book writers need to go from idea to finished kids' book. To learn more, visit journeytokidlit.com/ultimate writing binder. Hey there, and welcome to another episode of the Journey to KidLit podcast. Today I want to share with you a trick on finding a new idea to write about using a clip from an interview I did for the upcoming KidLit Indie Publishing Summit. My guest speaker is going to be Sara Karthik. She's an award-winning author from India, and she's only 10 years old. Speaking to Maya for this interview was so inspiring because she's already accomplished so much at such a young age. Let's take a look at what Maya had to say about how to come up with a new idea to write about.
Hello everyone, I'm Sara Karthik and I'm 10 years old. I live in Chennai, India, and I'm the author of the book Pari and Kyle Adventures Saved by Sid. So thank you so much for having me here today. And I'm extremely honored and very excited to be talking to all of you. And every time I read a book, many thoughts run through my head as how would the writer write this story? Or what was the writer thinking when she or he was writing the story? Finding an idea for a story can often be really tricky, or it can be obvious and right in front of your eyes. So now I'm going to help you structure a story and make the writing process a whole lot easier. So step 1, think of an idea. You need an idea to write a story. There's no good or bad, right or wrong. You just need some idea of how your story is going to go. You might get an idea from reading a book, or you might get an idea from watching something, or you might already have an idea. A good place to start is by reading a book and something that we all love to read. One thing I do with my sister is when I'm halfway through, I stop and ask her questions like, what do you think is going to happen next? Or how do you think the story is going to end? And we always have fun conversations after that because her answers are so imaginative and creative. And voila, there you have an idea for your story. That can be an idea. And one thing I do when I'm reading the book, I picture myself in that particular situation and think what I would have done next. Sometimes the character does the same thing, and sometimes the character doesn't. So this can be an idea for a story. Another thing I do is I maintain this creative journal where I write all my thoughts, ideas, and everything I want. And it's a useful thing to do because later on I can come and go through it again, and when I've already got an idea, I can build up on it and make it even better. So that's a good way to get an idea too. And another thing that I've been doing through the months is that for whatever book I read to my younger sister, I write book reviews for it. And for one, that helps me appreciate the good work by the author. But mainly, it helps me think back about what was in the story and write what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it, what I learned from it, and what I would have done differently. And added to that, this helps me build my writing skills. So this can also be a good way to get an idea. If you see my story, my very first idea for the story was very simple. I pictured these two sisters going on a big adventure. And as I mentioned before, because I like fantasy fiction genre, I wanted to introduce a small, cute talking animal character to be a friend to these two sisters. So this was the simple and basic idea I first had for my story. So step 1, think of an idea.
Wow, thanks so much to Maya for sharing her process. To recap that for you, there were 3 good ways she mentioned that we can find an idea. 1, start with something simple and build off of it. 2, keep a journal with all your ideas in one place to reference later. And 3, read books in your genre of choice and think about how the author came up with their idea, plus how you would have done it differently. All great suggestions to help get you started. And if you'd like to listen to the complete interview I did with Maya on the 7-step process to write a children's book, you can sign up to join the KidLit Indie Publishing Summit. It's a 4-day event that's going to take place later on this month, and there are 16 different presentations from authors on how to write and self-publish a children's book. And it's all 100% free. All you have to do is sign up to attend. I'll also have a link to it on the post for this page under the podcast tab at journeytokidlit.com, episode 14, so that way you can easily find it. And that about does it for today's episode of the Journey to KidLit podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you have a thought about today's episode or a suggestion for future ones, send me an email or reach out to me via Twitter. And if you liked what you heard, be sure to leave a review, and while you're there, subscribe to be notified of new episodes. Until next time, happy writing!